Hello viewers, welcome to our lecture series on marketing management, and in this very series we have been talking about retailing, and this is going to be part 10 of our lectures on retailing, which is going to be the last segment of this discussion on retailing. So we have been talking about India as a preferred destination, and we all know that retail activity in the country is set to increase with the plethora of foreign brands eyeing to open their stores or entering into our country via joint ventures with growing brand awareness and higher disposable income available, and also the large and diverse consumer base. So all these components, all these uniqueness of India's market makes it a preferred destination for the players across the globe. Although the successful entry and sustainable growth require a comprehensive understanding of the regulatory landscape, strategic planning, and of course the cultural adaptation, because India is a very much diverse country in terms of its cultural diversity. So one has to map it in a proper manner, in a requisite manner. They should understand the regulatory landscape, strategic planning, and also the cultural differences. So setting up presence in India, although it involves navigating the discipline of tax and regulatory frameworks, I won't call it to be a hurdle. I would say that it is a kind of discipline of tax and regulatory frameworks. Foreign companies, they must adeptly maneuver through key legislations. For instance, I would talk about FEMA here, Foreign Exchange Management Act, Companies Act, because if they are entering into our country and formulating establishing a company here, then of course they need to be aware of the Companies Act 2013, the Goods and Services Tax Act, the legislation for GST, and also a host of other laws, including Consumer Protection Act, competition law, intellectual property laws, that is IP laws, and of course the legal metrology law. So understanding these regulation is essential for any investor who is willing to invest into our country, because they are going to impact pricing strategies, supply chain management, and of course the overall business operations. So no segment of your operation is going to be devoid of these regulations. You have to be aware, because we all know that ignorance of law has no excuse. So we should be aware of the relevant legislation, the legal framework, or the policy framework which government has put in place. So navigating the complexities of retail market also requires a strategic entry model. There are multiple options which have been tested in the past, including distribution agreements. Somebody can enter through distribution agreement, somebody can think of having franchising, wholly owned business subsidiaries, or even you may think of joint ventures, where each of these models, they are offering unique advantages. So you have to decide that what is going to be your entry mode. So your entry mode will be according to your own choices, preferences, and expertise with which you are willing to enter into a country like India. And of course the size of investment also matters a lot, because I personally feel that it is the size of investment which is going to determine your entry mode. And because expertise is something which either you have or you can hire it, or you can for that you can join your hands together with somebody who is expert into that. So distribution agreements used by, if I have to give an example, I would say that distribution agreements are used by some of the renowned brands in the past, because they allow market testing with minimal risk, and franchising for rapid expansion with lower investment. If your size of investment is on a lower side, but you are willing to have a rapid expansion, then franchising is the right entry mode for you. If you are willing to go for having a greater control and stability, then of course you should have wholly owned subsidiaries, because they provide you this benefit of greater control and stability. If you are willing to navigate through regulatory and cultural landscape without spending much of time, then of course joint ventures is going to be a right choice for you, because they combine global brands with local expertise, which is essential for navigating regulatory and cultural landscape. Because if you are new to the system, you don't have any idea about the legal framework, then of course you can join your hands together with the local people. So global brand can join hands with the local people, just to have the benefit of both. So there is no straight jacket approach, I would say, because we have to understand that there is nothing like one size fit all approach or straight jacket approach, what you call, and that is why it is very much crucial for us to curate a specifically tailored model for our own business, because that would actually that can be crafted as per our own requirement, and then we need to undertake a careful structuring process to develop a model which is commercially not only viable but also tax efficient and regulatory compliant, because we cannot think of having a business model which is very much regulatory compliant but not commercially viable or tax efficient. So we have to understand that we have to develop a model which is not only viable but also feasible, because if it is not profitable, how can you run? So you have to think of developing a model which is most suited model for your own desires, for your own size of investment with which you are entering the market. So given this scenario, we have to first understand what are the retail models and the opportunities. So there are three models which are there in place. The first one is cash and carry. We also call it wholesale trading. There was lot of debate going on prior to the present government, that this FDI in retail, whether it should be permitted or not, whether it should be permitted in cash and carry or wholesale trading or not, and the name of Walmart was very much coming in the news debates, in the several publications. So in India, consumer goods, or what you call as FMCG, fast moving consumer goods products, in their retailing, it is clearly divided between urban and rural market. Although there is also a market segment where we call it to be an urban market, cause in certain metro cities, at the outskirts there are certain villages which are neither completely urban nor completely rural, and they are being categorized as urban markets. That is a combination of rural and urban. But broadly speaking, we classify them into rural and urban markets. So while global businesses, they would focus on urban markets, the impact of ease of FDI regulations on existing businesses both in urban and rural zone, it is to be seen in the future, that what is going to be the regulation, the impact of regulations. That is again a matter of future, because it is changing every day. So far, if you ask me, I would say that this segment has had automatic investment to the tune of 100% as per the regulations set by the government. So here it is 100% permitted, because they are doing a wholesale business. So it is a right of our retailers to get the products at a possible minimum cost. So here this cash and carry, or what you call as wholesale business, it is this FDI is permitted here to the tune of 100% by the government as per the present regulation. Now the second mode is single brand retail trading. We call it SBRT. So when we say the single brand retail trading, the government has eased the sourcing norms in this segment, and they have allowed single brand retail outlets by international brands. Now the government has now permitted 100% FDI under automatic route of SBRT. So for single brand retailing, 100% FDI is permitted, that too through automatic route. And as you all know that I have already told you about two different routes, automatic route and government route. So again I am reiterating, in automatic route there is no prior approval is needed, wherein in case of government route you need to seek a prior approval, and for that also there is a completely automated portal through which you can apply for the approval. That is quite investor friendly. Now this actually immediately opens up opportunities for consumer durables, especially the global technology product companies, for starting retail operations of their globally successful brands in India. So a company which is having a globally successful product, they can start their own retail operations in our country, and this permission of 100% FDI through direct route or the automatic route is actually a boon for them. So this single brand retail model is actually allowed to operate on the e-commerce front, which was not allowed previously as part of the government regulations initially. So if we talk about the present rule, FDI cap is now it is 100% FDI is permitted in SBRT. So, I would say there is no capping, there is no limit, 100% investment is permitted in single brand retail trading. So, if you are a company which is dealing into the single brand, then of course, there is 100% FDI which is permitted. Now, what is the approval route? 100% of the investment can come through the automatic route. So, the approval route is automatic, which does not actually require any prior government approval. If we talk about sourcing norms for this segment of SBRT, for foreign investments exceeding 51%, if you are crossing the limit of 51%, there is a mandatory sourcing requirement which is there in place, it is being imposed on that particular company. It is just to ensure that the local players should also get the benefit of establishment of that company. So, the retailer must procure at least 30% of the value of its goods from Indian companies, with the preference for micro, small and medium enterprises, village and cottage industries and artisans. This is just to promote those small companies, those village and cottage industries and artisans, that they should also be in the mainstream, they should not lose their relevance, because of course their size of investment is very less and they are working at a local level. So, why not provide the benefit of this FDI to these local players also. So, keeping that in mind, government has actually imposed this regulation of procurement of at least 30% of the value of their products from Indian companies, with a preference for MSME, village and cottage industries and artisans. So, this 30% requirement, if we talk about the way it is going to be calculated, it is calculated as a 5-year average from the start of the business. So, the day on which you have started your business, from that you have to calculate 5 years, and on the basis of the average of it, you have to calculate the 30% requirement of local sourcing. So, sourcing norms can be relaxed for 3 years for products featuring state of the art or cutting edge technology. If sourcing from India is not possible, then there is a relaxation also. So, it is not a very rigid kind of regulation, it permits, there is always a fair degree of dovetail, where you need sourcing from your own country of origin, because sourcing from India is not possible. There you can of course go for availing the benefit of this relaxation for 3 years at least, because you have to just give a justification that the product is of that nature where we need the state of the art technology or cutting edge technology, which is not available in local country. Now, the next one is e-commerce. SBRT entities with brick and mortar stores, they are allowed to engage in retail trading through e-commerce as well. So, they are allowed for this sector also. So, for single brand retailing, if you ask me, I would say there is no hurdle. FDI is permitted to the tune of 100%, but the only point is that if you cross the limit of 51%, then of course you have to abide by the 30% of local sourcing, so that the small and cottage industries of India, or the micro, small and medium enterprises, they also get business from your investment, they also get benefit of your establishment. Now, moving on to the second route, that is called multi-brand retail trade, which is MBRT. So, these are actually traditional styled shops or retail chains established across India, historically known as bazaars, or we have been calling it mom and pop stores. They as known in most of the countries. In most of the countries, they have been called as mom and pop stores, and in India we have been calling them as bazaars or the market. So, the impact of government approved route in retailing by grocery chains or consumer goods retailing is perceived to be strong in various analysis done on this market. So, when we talk about multi-brand retailing, we have to understand that the global business in this segment tend to operate in the urban landscape with fairly large investments on infrastructure, and there is a greater emphasis on generating high volumes of business. So, the ultimate goal is that profit through the sales volume should come, and the companies in this segment, they are expected to be rising significantly in the urban markets. So, nevertheless, there will be enough room for growth in the organized retailing of multi-brand establishments. MBRT actually allows a retailer to sell products from multiple brands under one roof. And the characteristics of supermarkets or departmental stores, for instance, Walmart or Shoppers Stop, can be attributed to this, because multi-brand retailing, when we say, if you ask me for the example of multi-brand retailing, I would say that Shoppers Stop is the example of, the multi-brand retailer in India, or the Lifestyle is example of multi-brand retailer in India, where they are offering the multiple, they are selling multiple brands under one roof, under one department. So, you have multiple departments wherein you are actually selling the multiple brand. This is called multi-brand retailing. So, the government actually here is very much cautious or vigilant about permitting FDI into this sector. So, government maintains strict controls over MBRT just in order to protect domestic small retailers. Objective is nothing else but just to provide protection to the small shopkeepers. There was a study by the ICRIER, Indian Council for Research on International Economic Relations, and they had also raised their concerns about the future or the fate of domestic small shopkeepers. So, keeping that in mind, government has actually put some restrictions while permitting FDI into the multi-brand retailing. So, there is in India, retailers like, for instance, I would take names of Smart Bazaars or Reliance or Shoppers Stop or Tesco. They are actually examples of multi-brand retail traders. What is the current rule for multi-brand retailing? I would say that there is an FDI capping of 51%, that up to 51% of FDI is permitted in multi-brand retailing, which means that to the tune of 51%, anybody can invest into the Indian business, which means 49% would be by some other party. So, one company which is coming through FDI route, it cannot invest more than 51%. Now, if we talk about the approval route, all FDI in MBRT requires government approval. It is not automatic, and it is not permitted under the automatic route. They need to seek approval through the prior approval through the government, but there are certain conditions also. While seeking that approval, there are several conditions for foreign investors which they are supposed to abide by. They have to undertake that, yes, we will be fulfilling all these conditions, we will be abiding by all these conditions. Now, these conditions range from the investment size, the sourcing norms, and many other things. Now, so I will be telling you about them one by one. Now, when we talk about the minimum investment, there has to be a minimum investment of $100 million if you are willing to enter into the multi-brand retail trading. So, for any foreign investor, the minimum size of investment with which they can enter in India is $100 million. That need to be the size of investment. And what is the purpose behind putting this as a condition for the investments? This requirement has been imposed by the government to ensure that the foreign investors have a substantial interest in the Indian market. They should, once their investment size is significant, then of course they would take significant or substantial interest in the Indian market. And the retail trading business of the investee company also, because they will not only take interest into the Indian market, but also in the investee company, and they are dedicated to making long term investment commitment. This size of investment is going to make their commitment for a longer period of time, which is actually the motto behind putting this as a condition, as a stipulated condition for making investment. Now, moving on to another condition, the second condition is back end infrastructure, investment into back end infrastructure. And here the condition is that you have to at least ensure that at least 50% of total FDI must be invested into back end infrastructure. For instance, I would say warehousing, cold chains, and processing units within the first 3 years. What is the objective of it? The objective is that there is a significant infrastructural growth as well, to the economy. So, when we are permitting FDI, let them make significant investment into the back end infrastructure as well. So, this is going to provide the better infrastructure, the improved infrastructure to the companies where the FDI is permitted. And here the limit is, the minimum requirement is that you have to invest at least 50% of total FDI into the back end infrastructure. And this back end infrastructure, what it includes, there are certain inclusions and exclusions. So it includes capital expenditure on all activities, excluding the activities on front end units. The front end units, if you are making some investment into that, that is not included into it. It is only in terms of back end infrastructure, and it includes capital expenditure on all activities. Whatever expenditure that is of capital nature, that is allowed. Now this new regime has actually provided an indicative list for aspects that would be covered within the ambit of back end infrastructure, so that there is no ambiguity, so that there is no debate later on, there is no dispute later on that what was included into back end infrastructure, it was not known to us. So keeping that in mind, government has actually provided a list, indicative list, reflecting what all is included into back end infrastructure, and it comprises of investment towards processing, manufacturing, distribution, design improvement, quality control, and many other areas are there, but these are some of the significant areas which are listed. And it has been clearly clarified, it has been notified that any expenditure spent on land and rentals, that is not going to be considered for the purpose of calculation of back end infrastructure investment. So if you are, if that company is buying some land, or they are spending some money on land or building, or they are spending some amount on rentals, then of course that is not going to be considered as an investment into the back end infrastructure. So that would be excluded. If we talk about sourcing norm as the third condition, and the third condition is sourcing norms. After the capital limit and investment in back end infrastructure, the third one comes to be sourcing norms. So in case of MBRT, that is multi-brand retail trading, a minimum of 30% of the value of manufactured and processed products must be sourced from Indian MSMEs, that is micro, small and medium enterprises. So there is a sourcing norm condition also to the tune of 30%, you have to source from Indian MSME. And entities which are engaged in MBRT businesses, they are also obligated to source at least 30% of the value of procurement of manufactured or processed products purchased from Indian MSMEs which have a total investment in plant and machinery not exceeding $2 million. So here, for MSMEs, there is a condition that you would actually source your material from those MSMEs where the investment in plant and machinery does not exceed $2 million, at least at the time of installation. Suppose after in due course of your business operations, their investment into plant and machinery increases, that is not going to exclude them from being eligible to be invested by the the overseas company or multinational company which is coming to India. But at the time of installation, this condition need to be fulfilled, that the investment in plant and machinery should not exceed $2 million as far as the investment of MSME is concerned. So for the sourcing norms, we have to understand that 30% sourcing norms is applicable on the companies which are investing into multi-brand retail trading in India. But while deciding that from where to buy, while keeping that in mind, you have to understand that there is a capping of investment in terms of investment in plant and machinery by those MSMEs, and that is $2 million. And this kind of mandatory local sourcing requirement is actually aimed at providing a boost to small industries. The ultimate goal is to pass on the benefit to small players, so that they should not feel ignored, they should have a motivation, they should also get some benefit from this investment in multi-brand retailing by the foreign players. Now when we talk about the other conditions, there is also a state prerogative. Implementation of the MBRT policies at the discretion of individual state governments as well. They have to, there are certain areas where the state can decide that this MBRT policy which government has planned, whether the state government is going to implement it in toto or not. So, this means that foreign companies can only open retail store in states that have expressly agreed to the policy. So, those state governments which have actually agreed to these central policies, only in those states you can make investment as a multi-brand retailer. If we talk about urban location, retail stores can only be set up in cities with a population of over 1 million as per the latest census. And when we talk about e-commerce restriction, here this is a restriction, and here it differs from the single brand retailing. MBRT companies with FDI are prohibited from engaging in e-commerce for retail sales. So, retail trading by means of commerce, if we talk about it in any form by means of e-commerce, would not be permissible for companies with FDI engaged in the activity of MBRT. So, in the past the government has frowned upon creative joint venture models of to circumvent majority foreign ownership in MBRT. Now, what is the aim behind this? What is the purpose behind having this kind of restriction? It is very much clear that the aim of government is to safeguard small and medium sized retailers in India from being at any kind of disadvantages. So, my dear learners, when we talk about the categorization of investment in FDI in single brand and multi brand retailing, government is very much clear and very much positive about inviting investment into these sectors. But the only concern is that it will never be done at the cost of small shopkeepers or MSMEs or artisans who are actually operating in our country since very long. So, that is the only concern. Otherwise, government is all flexible, it is all open, and it is there to invite all foreign investors in India to make investment, earn profit, and also ensure the welfare of our country. So, with this, my dear learners, we had a very detailed discussion about the retailing in India, organized versus unorganized retailing. We talked about single brand, multi brand, and many other aspects of retail trading in detail. I hope you must have enjoyed this very segment of my lectures on retailing. Thank you so much.